I am so excited that we are entering year 2 of the support from the fireworks community team. I am so excited to have them hosting us today. They're a creative co-working space focused on supporting the local community and uplifting creative entrepreneurs. Get a free day pass. When you book with them, you have to use code DRIVE, or if you go to see them in person to visit their beautiful space and meet their awesome staff, tell them Logan from Your Morning Drive sent you, and you'll get a free day pass to try the space yourself. Fireworks Co-working in Marietta, Georgia. Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of Your Morning Drive. I am your host with the most, Logan Lewis. It's so good to be back with you. We're at the Fireworks Studio in Marietta, Georgia. Thanks for being with us today. Before we dive in, I have a couple of quick requests. Number one, please, whatever you're on, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, wherever you're listening, hit that follow button, that subscribe button, that little notification bell, the thumbs up. Whatever you got to do to guarantee that every week an episode gets delivered to your phone so that you don't miss a beat, do that on that platform of choice. On those platforms, if you can leave a comment, leave a review, leave a rating, please do that as well. It helps the show grow and reach new people, so we would appreciate that tremendously. If you want more content than just listening, you can follow along on social media, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and other places, maybe TikTok if it sticks around, who knows at this point. So feel free to follow along for clips, episode announcements, sponsorship information, all the things, and, of course, tidbits about me and my life. So follow along if you do so. Please do. And that's it for our intro. My guest today started as a graduate student in communications at the University of West Florida, earning teaching honors from both faculty and peers since she's brought her passion for education to Georgia Highlands College. There, she's helped develop innovative communication courses, coordinated textbooks, and led annual assessments. She's co-authored 2 textbooks on communication and public speaking, co-coordinated the annual speech competition, and served as the lead coach for USG Regents Debate Cup. Her leadership roles include serving as president of the Georgia Communication Association and chair of the University System of Georgia Board of Regents Council of Communications. Say that 5 times fast. Beyond academia, she contributes to Kennesaw's growth through city commission boards focused on arts, culture, and business development. She also directs plays at her local community theater and judges regional high school plays, competitions, all of those things. Please welcome my new friend, Travice Obas.
All right. Hi, Logan. It's nice to be here.
Good Lord, woman. That bio. Jesus Christ. When do you sleep? When do you eat? Thank you for being here. Goodness gracious. What an honor it is to have you, all of these things tied to your name, and you still chose to spend some time with me this weekend. So that's really kind of you.
Absolutely. Happy to do so.
Yeah. It's always fun to meet a mutual friend of a guest I also had on this podcast. I texted LBD right before here and I said, she's on her way. And she said, tell her I said hello. So what a pleasure she is, right?
That's one of my best buds.
Really?
From the communication world. Absolutely. And you've heard her talk about Meredith. We come as a trio. Mm-hmm. So we've had a lot of fun together, a lot of laughs, a lot of crafting, a lot of drinking, all of the above.
We love that.
We love to have a good time together.
That's awesome. It's the best when you can surround yourself with people that are good for you, both professionally, but also leisurely. Mm-hmm. I mean, to be able to have conversations with people that are about business or about whatever your craft is, but then to be able to unwind and have a good time with them as well. It's a nice blend.
I will say that Laura Beth has the best recipes. And so she used to have a blog. I'm going to encourage her to bring it back where she would blog some of her favorite recipes, from smoothies to margaritas to just yummy munchies. So we'll need to see if she will bring that.
She also told me back when I talked to her that she loves throwing parties.
She does.
And I told her, I was like, let's throw a party.
We need to have a party.
And
with all the friends.
I agree.
Old and new.
All friends, old and new. I love that.
And one other additional story about Laura Beth that I will share is she is the one who got me into running 5Ks.
Really?
That is a serious marathoner.
Really?
Right there.
I don't know if I knew that.
Yes. She actually did a couch from couch to 5K and encouraged this women leadership group we had on the college campus. And it included myself, of course, Meredith, and she got us ready.
Wow.
Yeah.
Look at
So,
her go. When does she sleep too?
no.
I don't know.
And she's got a husband and a child. So she's got a lot more on her plate.
Yeah, I don't even know. Goodness, I don't even know where to start with these. See, I do my best, and when I love it when people give me referrals and send people my way to have on the show. So I tell everybody this: I do my best to do very minimal research about you because I want to be as genuinely entertained and informed as the person listening. Because there's nothing worse than listening to a conversation that was pre-scripted or a ton of background research was done on because it seems less genuine and it seems less authentic, and I don't like putting content out there like that. So thank you. So I have everybody give me a bio and I look at a few things just to make sure you're not a serial killer, and you passed that check, so thank you very much for that. Thank you for your service to not killing people. And here we are. I mean, golly, I like most people, I read the bio once, put it on my notes, and that's it. And golly, woman, when do you sleep? How do you do it all?
To be fair, that has been the last almost half of my life. So I started that roughly that first year of graduate school. So that bio includes everything I've done since then. So it has been a ride. I'm very grateful for this journey. And I will say this, I never planned to enter into the field of education. I was born and raised a Catholic, and so very much in that prim and proper mode. And I always had aspirations to be on the stage. And my parents, although they encouraged some of that creativity, is like, that's great for you to do on the side, but we need you to have a real career.
Wow, I relate so much.
And I decided I'm going to be a business major. So I took intro to business. I took a marketing class, which was really a lot of fun. But then I had to take accounting, not a math person.
No.
So I took accounting one, and that was back when they had the plus and minus system. And you had to have a C plus to go on to accounting two. Travice did not earn a C plus.
What did you earn?
So I got a C minus.
Okay.
So I passed,
Yeah.
but just not enough to get into the second section. So
right.
Unbeknownst to my parents, I went down to the registrar's office because back then you had to actually go down to the registrar's office, and I changed my major to theater.
Really? You did it and they did not know?
I did not tell them.
Oof. All right.
So I waited until the last semester of my senior year because you had to prep a senior showcase. They knew, of course, back then they gave you like at the end of each quarter or semester. I think we were on quarters back then, but they would give the grades and they would just look at the courses and go, good job, Travice. Never really questioned all of the details, just saw that I got good grades. So anyway, jump to senior year, you have to prep for senior showcase. So you're taking these really intense, lessons and lectures with some of the artists in residence to get ready for your own showcase. That's when I launched it on them.
Wow. And their reaction?
Congratulations. Now what are you going to do?
Right.
And I did not have a plan. So my dad's like, well, you could go to New York. There's all these fun things here if you really want to go into theater. Or you could go to California, where you could focus more on films and things of that nature. Which do you choose? And I was like, neither, because I was terrified. And probably that was the best way to be at that particular age. So my dad said, we believe in education in this family. Until you figure that part of your life out, you're going to need to start a master's degree.
Wow. Your parents, respect. Honestly, I get it.
Yes.
Respect.
I started a master's program. I applied to 2 schools. I took the first opportunity that came to me, which happened to be the University of West Florida. And the other one was University of Central Florida, which I also adored their program. But at any rate, I ended up in that first semester of graduate school. I was very blessed to have one of she's a professor emeritus at this point as my major grad professor. And she asked me to teach a class. It was a senior level business professional class. And I said, sure. And it paid. And I've never stopped teaching since.
Wow.
So she is the reason. Her name is Athena Dupre. Have to give her a shout out.
Sure.
And she is the reason why I'm an edger.
Wow. And you never saw yourself getting in there?
Absolutely not.
Wow.
Absolutely not. So it's just one of those happy accidents where you can take something that you've done, maybe even have a formulated plan, but then another opportunity presents itself and you realize I'd never thought about that. Let me also pursue that.
Was there any bit of you that was like, I'm not an educator. I don't want to teach. I don't want to live that life?
I think I had a perception of it that it was very much mundane. Like you did the same thing day in, day out. So maybe that's why I didn't equate that, because the theater world is so creative and there's costumes and there's lighting, and that's fun for me versus kind of like that mundane every day. But once I got into it, particularly in the field that I'm in, it's one of those things when you can show people a better way to do something, a more effective way to do something, you realize you're really changing lives. And as the generations get a little bit younger, their issues with communication seem to become more of a concern. And so I'm happy that I'm able to help them understand those things and hopefully bridge that gap.
You're on the front lines of seeing that. I mean, you're seeing people come in and every year they're, like you said, they're entering in at the same point, but they're born later and later and later in life.
It's a combination of several things, because I remember even that transition from my last year of being a senior in college to that first year of graduate school. So my dissertation that senior year, I turned that in on a floppy disk.
What's a floppy? No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding.
That first year of graduate school, that first paper that I turned it into Athena was done on a flash drive.
Wow.
So from that,
the advancement.
And we didn't have social, unless you want to count MySpace.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I missed that train. I never had a MySpace. I feel left out on that. Everyone's like, you never had MySpace? Like, my parents were not letting me be on the internet.
And then 2 years after I graduated is when we got the version, or close to the version, of Facebook that we kind of all know and sometimes love.
I was going to say that. Your Morning Drive is also present to us by Good Days Canned Cocktails. Good Days are a classic cocktail brand created in a convenient, ready-to-drink canned format for any occasion, whether it's a pool day, a boat day, a beach day, a graduation, a wedding, a bar mitzvah, anything in between. Good Days are there for you. Good Days are ahead when they are in your cooler, your fridge, your anything in between. Good Days has your back. If you want to be one of the first to try their drink, you can do so by visiting drinkgooddays.com/pages/find-us to find a store near you selling their drink. Of course, you must be 21 years of age to consume and purchase. Know and appreciate at times.
Yes, but it's for them, they've grown up in a world, their parents were addicted to it to some degree. And so they also had that similar kind of addiction. And I say addiction because I actually do an assignment in one of my classes where they have to go on a detox. Sometimes I do it for 24 hours. Sometimes I do it for 46 or 48 hours, but somewhere ranged in there. And I ask them to give up every single one they use. So if they're on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube, Snapchat, TikTok, they have to try to give up all of them for that period of time. Now, because I'm also old school in this respect, I ask them to journal their emotions, how they're processing, what they're feeling. And it is amazing to me when they turn in these journals, and we're speaking of not being a serial killer. I always tell them, if you have the writing of a serial killer, you should get someone to help you so I can decipher it. But even though they start off usually going, why do you hate us? And it's usually the antithesis of that, right? Because I'm trying to get them to understand their over dependence on it. And they were like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that I could get so much more done by not scrolling and looking at all these cat videos for 4 hours.
Yeah.
And so those things are important. And I've had, non-traditional students as well. I had one who she indicated that she also encouraged her entire family to participate in the assignment. So she made them go without their social media platforms and actually put the phones away at dinner time. And she said, I kind of feel bad about saying this, but she's like, I'd forgotten what color my husband's eyes were. So if you'd had asked me before I did that assignment what color his eyes were, she's like, I could not tell you. Isn't that interesting?
That is interesting.
Not to sit at the table, eat as a family. She's like, normally I just text them the pizza's here and they just come and grab and go. But we actually had quality family time. And so it's moments like that when you see the communication actually helping.
Right. And you talk about changing lives.
Absolutely. So it's not to say all social media is all bad and evil and scary. There are elements to it, of course, but it's to also help you understand there's also more effective ways to communicate. And if your goal is connectivity, sometimes being disconnected from the social media and technology is the better thing.
Sure. Yeah. It is painful walking into like a restaurant and the whole family is just on a phone or a tablet or something. And I'm just like, oh,
Do you
Just
remember when Chick-fil-A, and I don't know if it was all Chick-fil-A's, but I remember the Chick-fil-A that's off Chastain, and this may have been like 2017-ish, somewhere
okay.
around there. But they had this little campaign going. Like when you walked into the restaurant and you were dining in, they had this little box. And if everybody
Mm,
put their phones in the box and did not touch it during the duration of the meal, they got free dessert for the table.
whoa.
Oh, that was really cool because
Very
it's
cool.
encouraging that connection and actually communicating with the people in front of you instead of all being like this.
Very cool. I think that more people should do that
Mhm.
because the ironic thing, I always find it funny that we call it social media
Mm,
because then the irony of it is that, yeah, it's social in the interactions, I
mm.
guess. But I mean, there's a lot of people that are just lurkers. Like my mother is a lurker. She doesn't post anything ever,
But she likes to
but
keep
she
abreast
just,
of what's going on.
right, she just watches everything. And, is she participating in social
She's
media?
a voyeur. Let's
Yes.
call her a
A
voyeur
voider
of a lurker.
instead of a
Yeah.
lurker. Lurker sounds dark and scary. The voider.
But that's that FOMO that we talk about. And so a lot of people, even though they may not post as regularly or they're not a content creator, they feel like they still need to have somewhere an adjacency to it to feel like they're part of the larger community.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I mean, we were just on a family vacation and my brother and sister both they were playing on Snapchat. So
Hmm.
just, this and that,
Hmm.
every 10 seconds. And to my brother, I was like, because he's a few years younger than me. And I was like, buddy, why don't you just delete Snapchat?
Huh.
It's just, it's stupid. But I was like, Snapchat's dead. Nothing's happening on Snapchat
You're wrong
anymore.
about that.
And he said, yeah, you know what? I think you're right. And he deleted it and
Okay.
got rid of it. So I'm proud of him for that. If he went through with it and didn't re-download it the next day, I don't know. He lives in another state, so I don't know. But it was just like, those apps are fun and
Hmm.
all for a time.
Hmm.
But then I just got done reading this book. I'm sure you've heard of it. And maybe you've even read it, Atomic Habits.
Yes.
And my way of thinking about how we live our everyday lives has completely changed
Mm.
based on this book about how, the app, like when Snapchat first came out, it's like, whoa, you can communicate with your friends with photos and videos and you can have cool, funny filters and send funny faces to each other. But after a while, it's just a routine. It's just a habit.
And then you become connected to that because you feel like in some way, if you don't participate, that is a problem.
Right. And if something's a habit and then you just stop it, all of a sudden you, in a weird way, go through with withdrawals from it. It's like, oh, I don't have my Snapchat.
Absolutely.
Well, I got to replace this with
Mhm.
something else.
Mhm.
And it's all of those things are shared with addicts,
Mhm.
with alcoholism
Mhm.
and drugs. And I mean, people might say it's being dramatic, but if you really think about it, if on the days that I decide, oh, okay, I'm not going to open Instagram today, I do struggle
Mhm.
as a guy who
Mhm.
posts content regularly. However, I have gotten better at it because I've invested finally in a platform that posts it for me,
Mhm.
and I can schedule things out in
Mhm.
advance, weeks in advance. So that was great for the vacation that we went to
You didn't have to worry
Mexico,
about it.
and I didn't have to worry about it, and it was great because I didn't have to be on my phone.
And there's so many other issues that come connected to that. The idea of social connect also brings with it what information is out there and what is being consumed. And that is why sometimes the Surgeon General's offices do say that social media is one of the larger scale issues that we have facing our society.
It's so interesting. And I mean, like you said, it's not all good and bad. And I mean, some people, I never thought about the whole TikTok ban thing.
Mhm.
I was watching videos from some of my favorite creators and stuff, and they were like, what are we going to do?
Right.
This is our income.
Totally, yeah.
This is our income. We are losing a chunk of income. We're going to have to figure it out. And I thought, wow, there's so many people that used TikTok. It'd be like if YouTube went away
Disappeared.
tomorrow. You know how many people would have to go and get a job?
Mhm.
It would be probably good for the economy, but horrible for, I mean,
Well, and it takes away a source of also there's that creative side of it, I think. And yes, you can make money and people do profit in those mediums. But I think back to what is the purpose of the social media? That platform is really important for connecting. And if our overall goal is to become one on one with other human beings, and we're noticing that there's a difficult time in us having those one on one relationships, if we're always on social media, and that's what I tell my students is I want you to walk into a room full of strangers and know how to strike up a conversation.
absolutely.
Or, and I think about how I met people and how I dated people. You were out. and you were introduced, you didn't send a DM and wait for a response, or if you get a response. So that
Right.
element of it is really kind of different. So there I could talk about this for hours. It's so
Okay.
fascinating to me. But those types of things I think are important. I think that's why the state of Georgia has committed itself to making a communication course in a college student's career a necessity because of that. So all 26 institutions across the state offer communication. Now, some of them offer it as an institutional priority, some of them offer it as an elective, but it's one of those courses that we know is important.
I think it should be a priority. I mean, even things like things that I learned in communication class that I never thought I would learn and then have never thought of, almost like we had a whole lesson on, we watched for the first half of the class a video of world leaders like
Mhm.
greeting each other at world leader conferences. It'd be like, when like NATO or the United
Mhm.
Nations, it's all about like the handshake,
Yep.
how long they're shaking, if there's a pat on the back,
Mhm.
there's a pat on the shoulder, if there's a whisper in the ear. There's so much that goes into that that's more than just a greeting.
Exactly.
And I would have never thought about that or known that. I'd just be like, oh, they're presidents, they're shaking hands because that's what leaders do. There's a lot of science behind the power of who lets go first,
Mhm.
who's, you're tapping us, well, I'm going to tap you back. It's
Mhm.
like a power thing. It's so interesting. I would never have learned that if it weren't for
And even
communication.
some of the greetings where you bow and you defer your eyes and all of those types of things. And that's why it's important to have communication courses where you're actually looking at that and dissecting that. And I'm also on this side. I love true crime. I love watching Dateline. It is like my favorite. If that was a sport, I think I'd probably be a rock star.
I was going to say, would you be an Olympian?
Probably.
Gold medal?
Gold
Medal?
medalist. Absolutely. And it's one of those fascinating things. It's just, I like understanding why people do the things that they do, but also how they process. Because some people I think are thrill seekers and they're like, can I get away with it? And how far? Whereas other people are like, they're methodical. Like some of these serial killers are just like method and they're like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this. So it's fascinating to me. And there's a couple that have taken place in my hometown, which is a little frightening.
Really? Hometown of?
Pensacola,
Oh.
Florida. Yes. And there's been some ones in Georgia.
I am fascinated by serial killers. It has been a movement that I've embarked on over the last couple years, but I am just so, especially like before, like, police departments actually across state lines talk to each other. And the fact that people could just kill people and they could do it for years. And some of them stopped killing people and they're just living among us. And we have no idea who they
Can I
are.
tell you an interesting story?
Please.
So Ted Bundy, one of the
Yes.
most prolific serial killers, of
Yes.
course. So I think most people might be aware of his backstory, that he thought for most of his life that his sister was that who was his mom, but he was raised to believe that that was his sister and his grandmother was his mother.
I did not know this.
Yes.
Okay.
So if you look back at the transcripts from him when he started killing, all of the women looked alike and they looked like his mother, but who he thought was his sister. And here's the interesting thing about this story. So when he actually came and killed in Florida,
To the college.
yes. So my uncle had just gotten on the force the year before. Now, keep in mind, Ted Bundy had escaped out of a prison when he was serving as his own lawyer. So when he was captured right on that Pensacola line by one of the police officers there. Yeah, I remember my uncle telling that story, and I'm like, wow, you almost came face to face with like literally death.
That's so insane. Another case, I just obsess over like these cases. And like, I think in another life, I was like a defense attorney or something, because I just like watch these things. And like me and my friends were talking about it the other night, because Netflix just recently, for some reason, it seems like every few years we revisit the OJ thing, but Netflix just released a 4-part docuseries about OJ. And even though I know the story front and back, because for some reason when I was in high school, I was obsessed with it. I was like,
that was on the
fascinating,
news, televised.
fascinating. And we were just talking about, my buddy was like, the fact that this dude tried on those gloves, but as he was trying them on, you could see he was expanding his own hand. It's like he's trying on the gloves with latex on, which scientifically nothing slides over latex. He's just like, the fact that that was probably the pivotal moment that the jury was like, oh, he couldn't have done it. Like, just with everything that we know now. And of course he's passed away now, but then he makes his family sign an NDA when he dies. It's like, are you kidding me? I can't believe it.
Clear about what happened. But yes, I mean, that's what defense attorney's job is to create that reasonable doubt. And that's what they do.
And that's what I found interesting, because when Netflix also went through that little spike last year where they released all the stuff about the Menendez brothers, is I just maybe just dumb or not paying attention, but it's not that you're proving that they're not guilty, or it's not that they're proving that they didn't or did do it. It's proving that they don't have enough evidence to show that he definitely did it.
It could be interpreted that way. The way I kind of look at it, just having, family members in these professions, judges,
Yeah. And of course, your obsession with the true crime world.
is that the prosecution's job is they don't have to prove motive. They just have to have compelling evidence that shows that you did it. And the defense has the same access to that information. So, really, their job, like you just said, is not to say that you didn't do it, but if you did, here's the reason why. And this could be that pivotal get out of jail free card. And I think that's what you're seeing with the Menendez brothers. It's like, we're not going to deny that they killed their parents, but there's a reason why. And if this, aspect of their testimony was precluded from the investigation and what the jury heard, we feel they deserve another trial.
I know that's what's crazy is I haven't heard anything of it since, but back when they released all that stuff, it was saying like, oh, they might get another trial or something. And I was like, oh my.
Well, they have a new district attorney.
Do they?
So in the November election, the person who was actually pushing that case forward got beat.
Well,
so there's a new one, and I think it'll be up to that person to determine whether or not.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, even just after watching both the documentary and the live, the reenactment, I was like, good God, they brutally murdered their parents. But now, knowing what we know now, it's like, okay, there's a lot of other solutions, but I don't want to say I don't blame them, but I mean, it's a sticky situation that I would not want to be involved with. So that's absolutely
But all
wild.
of those stories, like I said, made, headlines. I mean, I remember the ones about the woman that killed her sons by drowning them in the car. And you had, those stories, and you were like, for sure she did that, and all it takes is admitting that you did it. You serve your time and you move on. But some people are so staunch.
Yeah.
And like the weirdest ones seem to come out of Texas.
Yes.
Weirdest ones. There's a lady that just got out of jail, actually. She served her 20-year sentence. She was a second wife of this doctor, or dentist, technically. And she had twins. He had a daughter from her previous marriage. She actually thought he was cheating, hired a PI to follow him. She then decided to get in her vehicle with her stepdaughter in the passenger seat, drove to the location where she knew he was going to be with the mistress. Okay. Hits him with her vehicle, puts it in reverse, runs back over him again, but claimed she had no memory. But here was the ironic thing that, remember that PI I just mentioned? He was in the parking lot filming the entire thing.
Yikes. Maybe you could have left the PI out of that one, or had just let the PI do the job that you hired them to do.
Perhaps. I mean,
yikes.
She served her time and she's now out.
Wow.
So, yeah.
It's so interesting. So interesting. So tell me about one thing that piqued my interest when I was looking at this was the debate cup.
Yes.
You love a good debate.
Well, this second year, the state is doing it. So our current chancellor, who has been a governor of Georgia, is really interested in making sure students know how to present arguments, but also being able to defend positions maybe they're not necessarily connected to.
Sure.
So last year was the first go at this. So 2023 or 2024, excuse me. And there were, I believe, 6 schools that competed out of the 26 institutions. And so the chancellor this year put some money behind it. So for those that, students who want to win some cash, they incorporated that into the winning. And also each team gets to go to Macon for a day, and it's a full day of debate.
Wow.
And so you go as a team. And so we're training our students now to get ready for that. And so basically you get a list of topics and you have to do a strike. So if you and your partner feel like, yeah, that one we don't know enough about, you can strike it from the topic range. And then you focus on the ones you do want to argue. But it's done in the IPDA debate format. If you've heard of that, you have a structured message, then there's 2 minutes of rebuttal, then you have to do the opposite side, and then also a rebuttal on that side. And so the judges are scoring the way for each of the rounds. And so we do not know for this year who are going to be some of the judges. Last year, Nathan Deal was a judge, and so I think it's always interesting to see who they bring in to judge these competitions. And some of the topics, like one of them from last year was whether or not Taylor Swift's stardom has peaked. Imagine having to argue that on both the pro and the con side.
I don't even know where I would start with that one.
Well, I mean, some people feel like she has based on her age, but then other people look at it just as career driven. She might be more popular right now as an artist, but if you're looking at it the contrast as a woman, most women her age are married and have kids. And then you throw in her dating a pretty,
Well-known
well-known
NFL player.
Right. Does that change the level? Is it stardom? Is it the celebrity connected to that? And so I think it's cool how people balance those arguments, because if you're not a Swiftie, you're probably going to say, yeah, she's peaked. But if you're a Swiftie, you're going to figure out what argument you can best generate to make your point that she's still relevant, probably the most relevant that she's been in her career.
I could see both sides of it. It'd be really tough for me to debate both sides of that. I mean, on one hand, let's just debate it right now.
Okay.
So on one hand, the Swifties will come after me. I'm not a Swiftie. She's a talented musician, great songwriter. She makes all of her own stuff. She's very talented. So with that out of the way, I do find her annoying, but not because of anything she really does. I don't really have a good reason to find her annoying.
The coverage that she generates, the headlines.
Maybe it's the coverage. I see like kind of going back to the NFL thing. So she's dating Travis Kelce, and whenever she's a part of, she's been a big push on the NFL for their marketing of like, oh, Taylor Swift. And it's like, on one hand, I'm like, that is annoying. Just market the football. But then on the other hand, I've learned that so many more women now watch football because of that relationship. Now, if they break up, will they continue to watch the football? Who knows? But I want to also say that, she's re-releasing her old music, which in my head, if it were anybody else, take her situation with the music rights and everything, take that out of it. If someone's re-releasing their old hits, I'm like, they're a has-been. They're trying to ride the coattails of their own success way back when. Now, her music rights situation, I understand why she wants to delete the old album, re-release it, basically remaster it, but she gets the rights to it. I understand that, but I haven't, unless I'm just living under a rock and haven't heard. I mean, the last few albums she's released, it's been a few years. So maybe she's just waiting for her and Travis to break up. So then she'll release some new music. So I don't really know, man. I don't have a good argument.
Well, I was going to say, and for a lot of people, the information they had about her was that she wrote songs about breakups. And she seems to be in a happy place. And so I think her current music does reflect some of that. So I do feel like maybe stardom, depending on the person who's interpreting it, would have a different argument. Now, who would win?
Right.
I don't know. It's up to the judges.
That's true. So another thing I was curious about is, so you do a lot, and that's great. That's awesome. I'm jealous. I want to be like you when I grow up. Who knows when that'll happen. But what I was wanting to think about is like, in every profession, no matter what you do, there's people who get there, they do their job and they leave. And then there's the people who get there, they do their job, they do more stuff, and they do more stuff, and then they leave. And then even when they leave, they do that stuff at home because they're either really passionate about the company or organization they work for, or they, whatever. Why do you do as much as you do? Because I want to do a lot. And my parents and everybody in my life ask me, why do you want to try so many different things? Why do you want to do? Because I grew up the same. I grew up Catholic. I grew up in a household of my dad's an engineer, and he said, scribbling and drawing and stuff, that's cool, but make sure you do your math homework first. And I think still to this day, I think my parents wouldn't deny the fact that I think it's difficult for them to connect with me on this. Like, even if I interviewed the president of the United States, they still would be like, oh, that's really cool. How'd you get there? Maybe that's a dramatic piece of it, but we'll say the governor, because that's a smaller scale. If I interviewed Brian Kemp, they'd still be like, whoa, that's cool. As if I just interviewed a pizza shop owner from down the street. I could be Beyonce and they'd still be like, whoa, that's really cool, dude. Good job on that. Where it's like, I would expect them to be like, you interviewed the president of the United States, So I think it's difficult for them to connect with me on that. But like,
I understand that, and it's, they're coming from a generation where they were raised to maybe do more things with their hands, and that where you would see those contributions to the world almost instantly. It is a little bit different when you're navigating new territory, and there has to be room for that, right? Because if you are a person who is so good at your craft, you continue to create. That is what makes you you. And just in the small time that we've interacted with each other, I can tell that about you. So you will find those spaces. So each time an opportunity comes to you, that might lead to a connection. That connection might encourage you to try out something new, or even go back to something you started and maybe kind of lost the passion or didn't have the time for it. So for me, it's about the balance. I don't do all of these things at the exact same time,
Sure.
but it is a balance. And I'm really specific about what I connect myself to, if that makes sense.
Sure.
I always want to make sure that whatever I do, that there's kindness connected to it. I really want to help people understand themselves better, understand the relationships that they have, just make their lives better. And I feel like as an educator, I'm able to do that. But then when I also see the needs of my community, or I see the need over here, and I know I have something to offer, I'm usually very willing to jump in and offer that assistance. So that's the way I usually operate.
I like that. I mean, I have a lot, especially after doing this, and I've gotten to talk to so many cool people and hear about, like, they're writing a book. Maybe I want to write a book, or, they're writing a screenplay. Maybe I want to write a screenplay. I've always wanted to write a screenplay.
Well, and here's the thing, there's nothing to stop you.
I thought of a really good idea for a screenplay last night, and I was like, ooh, this could be the one.
And say you start penning it. Who knows? Maybe the next guest you have come in next month is connected to somebody in the writing industry.
Exactly.
And that's that connection I'm talking about.
That's the thing that I've almost become, if you want to talk addiction, with doing, and I've never said this out loud before, so this is fun. So in doing this podcast, as I said, I get to talk to really cool people all the time, and I get to learn more about what they do, how they impact those around them. And I just love the connection piece of it. And it's like, I don't know if it's an ego thing. So if someone's like, oh man, I really want to get involved with, debating. And it's like, well, I know somebody who's a debate coach. Or I really want to, I love our local, university system of Georgia. I want to talk to more professors about what they do. And it's like, well, I know 3 or 4 off the top of my head. Here's their numbers. And one of my, I guess you can call him a mentor, he's like that. He's the ultimate people connector. He's like, you said you like football. Well, here's a NFL coach's phone number. And it's like, whoa, okay. And he's just like, I can't wait to see what happens. And it's like, I love that. And that's kind of the inspiration kind of behind, by the time this episode comes out, the event will have passed. But my event that I'm doing is, I was like, I get to have so many cool conversations with so many cool people. And like, as certain guests say certain things, I'm like, oh, I should introduce them to this person. Bring them together. And I was like, ooh, I could do that. So I'm going to throw an event. And if this one goes well, I'll do it every year and just invite all my previous guests so they can just meet and mingle with each other. I don't hope to get anything out of it other than the fact that it's like, I just want to put people together.
Well, here's the thing, that's your superpower, because not everybody has the ability to do that or wants to take the time to do that.
I think it's fun.
Yes.
It's like, as soon as I started doing this and interviewing business owners or other creators or whoever, it's like, once you do a podcast with me, like, you'll know this as soon as you leave, it's like, we're homies now for life. Like, I want you to win so bad, and anything you do, I want just to like throw through the roof. Like, I just want to scream it from the rooftops, and vice versa. I've been really lucky to meet some really cool people, and I forget why I started that tangent, but either way, yes. Oh, and it's like, I just want to do everything. I just want to do it all.
Well, and you might have the opportunity to use that. And I have found that each thing that I've done has either propelled me to my next opportunity, or like given me the opportunity to learn and gain something. And I think being an avid learner and a person who wants to take in as much as I can, I think that's really important. And I think also when people see that, they will give you even more opportunities. Now, sometimes I have to politely say, I'm taxed out, and have to say no, but
Yeah, I get that. I'm not good at saying no. It's so bad. Someone could be like, hey, do you want to like help me, I don't know, breed pigs or something? I'd be like, yeah, sounds cool. Let's do it. That's my problem. But as a kid, I think, and maybe there's some therapy or psychology behind this, is as a kid, I felt like I never said yes to anything. And I really I don't want to say I was like I hate these terms, but like in high school, I wasn't like popular or anything. So my invitation to do other things was very limited. So maybe there's like some translation there to now me as an adult who has control of their own life is going to start saying yes to everything because I can now.
And there's probably a method to that. There was a book that came out a few years ago, The Power of Saying Yes, I believe is the title. And that kind of concept, instead of always being structured to say no or not right now or maybe later, say yes to that moment.
And similarly, I mean, there's a Jim Carrey movie out there called Yes Man.
I remember that.
And it's a stupid comedy, but at the same time, it makes you think like if we all just, instead of staying in bubbles all the time, if we did say yes to new things, who knows where we'd be? I mean, you never know. You really never know.
The world evolved. If you think it just about the United States, we're a nation of immigrants. People came over to the United States to create a new life. They were escaping religious persecution, and they had to learn how to adapt. You relied on each other.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what communication allows you to see is that connection. So I help you help somebody else, and you pass that on down the line. And that's the beauty of it. Mass communication as a whole is supposed to do that. And you mentioned silos, and that's something that's hard to kind of break through. I think we like to be able to look at somebody instantly and make a judgment because that makes us feel better.
Right.
Versus the fear of the unknown.
Sure.
But that also creates some chaos because you might misjudge a situation or a person.
Absolutely.
And that can become a worse situation had you just gotten the time to get to know them.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about this long thing that I named in your bio that I am going to say out loud again, just so people can remember how long this title is. Okay. Are you ready? It is the Chair of the University System of Georgia Board of Regents Council and Communication.
Yes.
What does that mean?
So those 26 institutions that are all under the USG system all have the ability to have councils on each specific area. So you'll have one for math. You'll have one for foreign languages. You'll have one for science. And basically what our job is to make sure every school within the system, anybody who has a communication degree, whether it's a 2-year or a 4-year, we're trying to make sure that our syllabi and assignments are in alignment. So if somebody starts at Georgia Highlands College and then wants to transfer to Kennesaw State, if you've already started in that pathway, you should be getting similar training. So that way all of those courses transfer. So that's our job. And so when I was chair, that was my job, was to work with each of the deans of each of those programs to make sure we're following those guidelines. And there's other things we get to vote on as well. Like one of the current things we're looking at is how we accept transfer agreements from tech schools in Georgia that also have communication degree programs. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I was going to say, so that makes sense. So rather than, I mean, like Georgia Highlands teaching communications one way and then transferring to KSU, but oh, I'm so sorry, KSU teaches communication a different way, so you're going to have to retake the course.
And we do not want to put students behind in that aspect. So we just work on those agreements. And again, looking at syllabi, comparing resources to make sure everybody's on the same page.
Wow. Okay. That is really neat. I never knew how any of that worked. I mean, when because I went to Chattahoochee Tech because Georgia Highlands didn't want me.
Oh, no.
No, I'm just playing. I don't remember what the circumstances were, but I was choosing between, because I had moved to Georgia and I didn't have a plan for college, and I applied to both of those schools, and for whatever reason I went with Chat Tech. But Georgia Highlands' campuses are also nicer, so Chat Tech didn't hear me say that. But I forgot where I was going with that.
Did you have to take the communication course again? Or do you remember?
I did.
Okay, because the tech schools and the USG systems are different.
And I didn't realize at the time that, again, like that it being a tech school, like technical college in the name, does make it a little different than Georgia Highlands College that doesn't have the technical in there. And that was my first exposure to, that sucks that my course didn't translate over, but now I know how that works. So that's a really cool.
And my co-author with the 2 textbooks that I worked with, she actually taught in the technical system. And that was why she wanted to partner with somebody in the USG system, is because we wanted to, again, make sure the content was applicable to both, because she was going to be utilizing it and promoting it in the tech side, and I was promoting it on the USG side. Wow. So it's important. I mean, we're communicators.
And it's an important, like you said. I mean, you don't want students to fall behind because Chat Tech teaches it one way, but West Georgia teaches it another.
Mhm.
Because that would suck. I mean, I don't want to say it's a waste of money, but it's a waste of time.
And we also have something that we foster, which I think is really important, is that there's like this 30-mile radius deal. So if there's a major that's offered, let's say at Kennesaw State, since Georgia Highlands is in such close proximity, we cannot offer that same exact degree. So I'm going to
Really,
use accounting as an example. So there is an accounting degree available at KSU. We cannot offer another accounting degree.
really.
It's a kind of like a competition clause, and because you're all really kind of going after the same student. Instead of set all of these schools having all the same programs, you kind of pick and choose. So you
Huh.
determine what area most interests you. So even our business degrees are a bit different from the ones that, KSU offers. We have one in building and information modeling, we have one in healthcare management, and then we also have one in logistics and supply chain management, which do not have a place at KSU currently. So
Interesting. So then, okay. And I guess that makes sense also why people say, oh, well, I'd go here, but their program for this isn't as strong as it is for here.
probably.
Wow.
Mhm.
Okay. I did not know that. So if you were to pinpoint like one or two things that Georgia Highlands is known for, what are those things?
I would say the biggest program that attracts the most attention is our nursing
Okay.
degree program, probably followed in close second by a dental hygiene
Okay.
program. Those two are really strong because what we are doing is we're partnering with all the area hospitals, and a lot of them are paying for students' books, their tuition in some
Awesome.
cases, their scrubs, all of these things that they need. And then those individuals are graduating and staying in the area and actually putting those skills to work.
Wow.
But I'm excited because in the fall, we are launching our 4-year communication degree. We have our 2-year, but we're
Yay.
launching our 4-year. So that's really exciting. It's in digital media and entertainment. So
Ooh.
it's a fusion between media classes, film classes, and writing classes.
Jesus. Where was this? God dang it.
It took us a while to come up with this, quite honestly, because of that competition clause. Because in most schools, you have a comm degree, but there's usually 4 tracks, right? You have journalism, you have PR, you have org comm, you have math comm.
Where was this? Oh my God.
Yeah. So, and we are, we have a film program, and it's in a partnership with, of course, the Georgia Film Academy. So they take their core courses with us and they do the hands on work on sets. But we really wanted to have a way to keep them longer if we could. And this was a way to.
Good for you guys. That's awesome. Because I can only imagine how many other kids out there like me at the time were like, I wish I could take a class of media and film
Yes.
or a major of media and film.
I'm not teaching all of these classes, but I know the people who are, who've written them. So I can get you in as like a guest lecturer. If somebody needed to do a hands-on project or an internship, sure, you could give them some pointers.
I would love to.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious.
So the ones I wrote the branding and advertising campaigns course. And then I also wrote the social media's case studies course. So I'll have them one semester looking at social media cases. And then that next semester, they take the branding and campaigns, and they have to actually put on a full on campaign for a business or an organization.
Really?
So,
What's it? I mean, what goes into writing a college course? I mean, how much time does that take?
a lot. A lot. It does take a lot. But, the way that I teach is a little less lectury, and I'm a conversationalist with some practical hands-on application. I don't know if that's the combination of the theater, but I just never did well with professors that just stood up at the front of the room and talked through their slideshows.
Right.
And I was like, I never want to do
It's not
that.
engaging.
It is not. And now I will say that I've had to do a little bit more legwork because sometimes students do not come to class prepared because they have not read. But now I just simply offer the PowerPoint. So at the very least, you have access to them. But I want them to actually understand how it works. So if I'm doing a conversation about interpersonal relationships, and I'm going through these, there's 10 dialectical tensions, right, of how you build and form relationships. Instead of me just like, here they are, I partner them up. They have to come up with a scenario and they have to act it out. So one of the stages, the very first stage of creating a relationship, is called initiating. That's just saying, hi, I'm Travice. Hi, I'm Logan. How are you? Then you move to the second phase, which is experimenting. That's just small talk. So engaging in conversation by asking and answering questions. And then you move up the ladder. But I had them act it out. And it's so funny because you can see them when they're taking the test going, they're remembering the
Yeah,
actual scenario to try to figure out what the next step of that process is. And that's what I love because that's real life.
sure.
Everybody builds relationships and you can see whether or not you're skipping phases or maybe while you're jumping straight from experimenting to termination because that's the last stage when the relationship just blows up for whatever reason.
Hmm.
So it's very interesting to kind of watch them. Now, some of them are hesitant because they're like, who is this crazy woman making us act? But
Yeah,
I'm like, I promise you this works. This
yeah,
technique and strategy works. So you asked about how you build a course. Well, generally, there's a framework that you have to start from, and that is looking at what are the course objectives. So if you're looking at it from an overall scope, what do I want the students leaving this course knowing? So you have maybe 3 or 4 of those objectives. And then you start thinking about, well, what skills are necessary? Do they need to learn Photoshop or, have, any kind of elements that they need to have coming into the course? So once you kind of lay that groundwork, then you start looking at textbooks and then you start deciding what your assignments will look like. Then it has to get approved through the curriculum committee. So you have to kind of, dot your I's, cross your T's, and cross your fingers to make sure that they're okay with it. Once it comes back and it's given its stamp of approval, you launch it. And then you start marketing it, and hopefully students sign up.
wow. So are there ever instances where someone writes a course and someone else teaches it?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay,
And we do it differently, though. I would say that my courses, because I'm taking from my level of expertise, I'm going to be more hands on. So somebody else that maybe comes and teaches it after I do might not like that approach, and so they have the ability to kind of edit what they do as far as the course is concerned. I will say that that is one of the challenges we're seeing, I think, just across the scope in the field of education. There seems to be this need to standardize everything so
sure.
everybody gets the same experience. And I just don't know if that is the healthiest approach to it because I think everybody processes differently. So as long as you're teaching in a way that meets all the sensory needs of your students, you're hitting your objectives and your goals, I think that personality that you have as the educator should come through.
Sure, sure. That makes sense.
But
Okay.
colleges, you're a little bit more free to do that. K through 12 arena is a bit different because, they're taking annual testing and you have to score a certain amount on these tests. Whereas college professors are teaching you how to think and helping you figure out what you're going to be when you grow up. So our scope is a little bit different.
Interesting.
Mhm.
Interesting. So fun. So many fun things here today. Good Lord. I'm learning so much in so little time. It's fantastic. I love learning. Sometimes I think about like, oh, I'll go back to school and get a master's. But this maybe even leads into another question of
Mhm.
I don't know that in my day job, which I do have and love them, getting a master's isn't going to do anything for me
Mm.
in that job. And even if I were to quit my day job and at some point be able to pursue this stuff full
Mhm.
time, a master's isn't going to do anything for
Right.
me. I want to ask you how you guys navigate the landscape of how, more and more people nowadays, I still don't think the majority of people think this way, but I do think a lot of people are thinking that you don't need college anymore.
Mm.
How do you navigate, maybe you meaning the school as a whole, how do you guys encourage people that like, hey, do come see us.
Mhm.
Come to do you offer, hey, come to a class for free. Come check it out. Come see
Mhm.
what the campus life is
Mhm.
like. Come see our amenities. Come check out our staff, the other students. How do you make it so that people still want to come?
Mhm. That's an excellent question, Logan. And I will say that it is difficult. I do feel that furthering your education in some capacity just creates more opportunities for you. But the traditional setting and version of college may not be for everyone. Your path might include going to welding school or going to cosmetology school, maybe earning additional credentials in certain fields. That might be your process. But the academic aspect of it is the bachelor's, the master's, and maybe the PhD or EDD. And those are pretty much your choices. But if you do not plan to teach the rest of your life, or you do not want to spend time writing books and researching, that may not be the path for you. But thinking about college as a global entity, and I don't know how much you know about the history of education in the United States, but you had famous families who had these children that were being tutored by the world's greatest minds, right? And then at some point they thought we could monetize this. We could charge a price to
I did
say,
not know
this is
this.
information that will help get you to the next step. And that's where you saw that marriage of businesses saying you need a college education. And it created this sense of, oh, yeah, that's really cool. We have these campuses and we have all these things you can do and you can try. But we're looking at the world around us. And what are some of the things that we see? Well, we have a lot of jobs in which people are not qualified to do. We also have the threat of jobs being taken over by AI. And so you've got to think about different ways of looking at education. I think our system in Georgia has done a great job of that, of trying to make sure that, we have programming that meets the needs of the jobs that'll be around in the next 10 years versus, keeping certain ones that maybe people like, but they're not able to get a job with.
Sure.
So it's a balancing act. And we always say that, Georgia Highlands is a great place to not only start, but also finish. But you also might find that your path might take you to a tech school. It might take you in a different direction, and that's okay as well.
Sure. So also, I just realized that your eyeshadow and your outfit match. Is that
My favorite color?
I was gonna say, and your earrings. Wow, I was gonna say, was that on purpose?
Color.
I love that.
It's
So of course,
and just all the yummy stuff that I like to eat.
like
Pears,
pears,
apples,
apples,
kiwi.
Starbucks.
Oh.
It's green.
Oh my gosh. So I had in a mass media class, where a student was doing a presentation. On the PowerPoint slide comes my face. And the cue on the PowerPoint slide was Miss Obas loves me. And everybody knew the answer before the slide advanced. It was the Starbucks logo that came around my headshot.
Wow, that's hilarious.
What happened is a student ended up tweeting it, and it was retweeted and replied to by Starbucks. It was the
best thing that's ever happened to you.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
Mm-hmm. For my 40th birthday, I had friends whose last name is Green. Each of them bought a total of 40 Starbucks gift cards. It was hilarious when I
Holy
went in
shit.
to get them all put in and loaded on my gold card.
Good Lord. Is it still there? Yeah. 40?
40, because in honor of that milestone. So there's 5 of them in the family. 2 of the 3 kids are married. So they all kind of went in and
wow.
just got Starbucks gift cards.
That is
How
amazing.
much I love Starbucks and how much I love Green.
That is the gift that keeps on giving. What is your Starbucks order?
I have a couple. So if I'm in an iced coffee kind of day, it's usually an iced macchiato with caramel. Okay. If I'm like feeling like I need something to kind of get me going, I'll order a train tip, but I have to order 2 of the venti sizes and combine them because they don't do the train to cup and the hot.
Oh, no.
No. Only
Oh, that's right.
Coffee. So for that one, right now, I'm still on a pistachio kick.
Okay.
So I'm loving that, just pistachio. And other than that, I'll make it at home and put in my own caramel macchiato creamer.
Sure.
Starbucks did just announce they're getting rid of some beverages.
They sure are.
And that's going to continue to happen through November, they say. But, it could be a good thing, Logan. We can't freak out because so many people have all these various combinations. And if you're thinking about efficiency, if they have to have all these ingredients to create all these things,
that's true.
It's reducing their productivity. So maybe they just want to simplify.
Maybe they do. And that's okay. Simplification is fine. There's nothing better when you go, no, I'll start by saying it. There's nothing worse than when you go to a restaurant and their menu is like 8 pages. But when you go to a restaurant where it's like 1 page, maybe front and back, maybe just front, you're like, okay, I love this. It's so much easier. And it's just too overwhelming.
And I'm sure there'll probably be still secret ways and hacks that you could still order some of your favorites.
Right.
Yeah, I do love my Starbucks.
Yeah, I love a good Starbucks. I used to be like, oh, I'm only going to get iced coffee in the summer and hot coffee in the winter. I will get iced coffee year round. Maybe I'm a psychopath. Maybe I'm a serial killer, but I get an iced white mocha any time of the year.
Okay.
Anytime. It's so good.
What are your thoughts about the cranberry bliss bar?
I don't even know what that means.
So it's the yummiest dessert. It only comes out around Thanksgiving and Christmas. And I will buy them by the case because there's 6 in a case. And then you cut them in half and then you have a dozen. It's just heaven. So it's literally a graham cracker crust layered with cream cheese. Okay. Topped with cranberries and then orange shaving peels. Oh. It is divine. Anytime I brought those to a party, I can't claim that I made them because they're too pretty, but I'll say I bought this dessert for you in mind, and everybody loves it. And you cannot copy it. Like even if you try your hand, and my mom's a great baker. She has tried her hand at complementing the Starbucks version. There is no comparison. Wow. So when that comes out at the end of this year, you'll have to try that out.
I will. Goodness gracious. So tell me about Kennesaw, your favorite city. What's the involvement with Kennesaw?
So I moved to Kennesaw in 2003. So when I got married that same year, I had applied to three institutions. I applied to what was then Floyd College, which is now Georgia Highlands. I applied to Kennesaw State, but their position was contingent upon funding. They had not gotten their final budget yet. And then I also applied to what was called then Georgia Perimeter, which now they're part of Georgia State. And I did my interviews and thought I did well. KSU said, of course, we're waiting on the budget. So I kind of like put them in the back burner. But in the interim, I figured I need to figure out where's a good place to live, because if I get the job at Floyd/Georgia Highlands, that's a commute, even to the Cartersville location. And we settled on Kennesaw. We just liked the vibe. And so, I think when we moved here in 2003, KSU was still Kennesaw State College. And there was roughly 16,000 students. And
Wow.
look where they are at today. And so we just really wanted to get involved. And so the first neighborhood that we lived in we were there for 10 years. And then we moved to Vinings for a little bit. And then I got my heart right and then came back.
Your heart right. Understood.
And so now I live very close to the downtown Kennesaw area. And so I had always been involved in things, running the 5Ks and doing different things around the city. But I really started to get invested into some of the things that needed to happen as far as the politics related to the city. And a lot of that centered on some of my interests. So culture and art and economic empowerment. So I just went in and I put in an application, and they said some of our committees do require, a college professor on our boards. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. They really, I think, wanted to make sure that they were inclusive of the areas. And so I was like, if you have openings, I'm there. So I dove right in, and I have enjoyed every minute of it. I'm on hiatus now. I finished up my terms and taking a back seat for right now, but still heavily involved. I got to be part of the Kennesaw Business Association. So I got to meet a lot of great business owners in the area. Of course, I have a lot of students that live in and around Kennesaw, so being able to connect them with those individuals is also a great thing.
Yeah, Kennesaw is a great city. I love it so much. My parents lived there, and I lived there for some time, and I went to KSU as well. So I mean, I enjoy Kennesaw.
Yeah, what's your favorite spot to be?
Oh God, that's tough.
It is. The day.
You know what? I'll tell you what. In downtown Kennesaw, I love me some Bernie's.
They have the best, and this is going to sound weird because nobody really likes Brussels sprouts, but they have the best Brussels sprouts with bacon.
Really? I've never had them. I love Bernie's so much. Just thinking about it makes me mad. I haven't been in a long time.
They have a peach cheesecake that comes out kind of around the time of Big Shanty, typically. That is to die for. That's one of my faves. I love a good slice from Pisano's.
Oh God, stop. I love Pisano. God.
Then you got to go over to Frozen Cow.
I have forgotten how banging Kennesaw downtown is.
We've got some great spots, and there's more to come. We're building like crazy.
Yeah, I mean, goodness gracious. God, it's so fun down there, too. I mean,
the new amphitheater
looks amazing.
Yes. So I think they just recently laid out the schedule of programming, and we've got some pretty good artists lined up.
Love to hear that.
Find it. I'll have to send that to
you. Yeah,
you.
Please do.
And I think the next year is when they're going to maybe like outsource it for other people to utilize. I think they wanted a full year under their belt, just them kind of managing it.
Yeah, for sure.
That's so exciting to see.
Oh, for sure. I love all of it down there. I mean, Pisano's is fantastic. Bernie's is beautiful. RIP to whatever it was, trackside, and then it was whatever it was. I forget the name. Bernardo's, I think. And then now
you go. It's 1885.
I haven't been to it since. I've been to the 1885 in Ackworth though.
Okay,
yeah.
So they're 10 minutes apart.
Yeah.
They do have slightly different menus.
I've heard this.
So I got the pleasure of going opening day.
Wow.
And so we arrived right as they were opening the doors. And I, of course, frequented the one in Ackworth, and I asked for that same beverage. They did not have that one. But they're like, we'll make you something equally as fabulous. And then threw in free dessert, the key lime pie.
Wow.
Happy camper.
Wow.
So definitely check it out. The rooftop area has a perfect aerial view to the amphitheater. So like if you're up there and there's, a show,
concert or something,
oh my gosh, it'll be amazing.
I'd love for Kennesaw to really step it up and go into try to compete. It'd be tough too, but try to compete with the Woodstock summer concert series, because Woodstock really owns that.
I would agree
They
with
kill
you.
it.
I would agree.
Kennesaw still needs to work on their parking situation. That's maybe the biggest flaw with downtown Kennesaw, is that the parking isn't great, but you can figure it out.
They have done a couple, because when I was on the board, they had a couple comprehensive studies done that would best serve the city, because they don't want, for 3 days out of the week, a parking deck being utilized. Yeah. And then the rest of the time it's empty. But we've also got Galt Commons is expanding. So the Nest, of course, went out of business. And so that whole area down the
Really?
end, they
Man, it's
closed
been
their
a
doors.
minute.
I know. And so they're going to acquire the building that was right next to them and expand Galt Commons. So I believe it'll add maybe a half a dozen or so more homes there. Then you have the ones that are the mixed use space that are on Summer Street, like Dairy Queen.
Yeah.
And what else am I missing? There's another area that they're building as well.
I saw today on Facebook that the ownership of Lazy Lab is changing. Did not know that. Wow. But good for them. I saw the post and it said we're trying to live our best life, essentially. And I said, good for them. They deserve it.
Yes. And even, I don't know if you remember there on the corner where the traffic light is and where BurgerFi is, the building's right across the street.
Yeah.
One used to be a chiropractor area. So I believe that is being renovated to something else.
Interesting.
As well. So they're trying to redefine and reestablish. You don't want to lose too much history, but at the same time, if you want to get companies to come down there,
Sure.
you have to have updated buildings that accommodate for being able to scan QR codes and just basic things like that. And if you keep them as historic homes, it doesn't really lend itself.
Be able to have it'd be a huge goal. I don't know when or if this will ever happen, but I'd love to be able to have a space to do this in every major, if I could have one in downtown Woodstock, if I could have one in downtown Kennesaw, because I have guests from all over.
Yeah.
I mean, where do you live?
I live right cornered from Swift Cantrell Park.
Okay, so you're in Kennesaw. So if I could have been like, hey, we'll just shoot downtown Kennesaw, that would have been beautiful.
You might want to check out, there's the Greenlight Studios that's down there. And you also have Summer Street Studios.
I have met with him before.
Those are the only two areas that I'm familiar with that might have space.
Greenlight Studios.
They focus more on acting. Okay. They do on-camera acting. So Erin Bethea is the owner. She is a well-known actress. Her most probably prolific role, she starred opposite Kirk Cameron in Fireproof.
Really? Okay, good stuff.
So I met her through commission boards.
Wow, so cool. So freaking cool. Fun. Yeah, Kennesaw is great. And it's only growing. And I mean, Horned Owl is really great too. They've come a long way too with adding the food component to them. But I love that everyone's just always eating pizzanos at Horned Owl.
Even the nights I go to trivia, so I still have to patronize, of course, them.
Of course.
But I also like my slice from pizzanos. But I'll get the little beer and cheese pretzel bites. Yeah, they need to bring back the Friends Night trivia. That one was so packed. Like I said, I think they need to do another one.
My toxic trait is anytime I go to a place and see that there is either pretzel bites or a giant pretzel, I don't even look at the rest of the menu. I'm like, it's mine.
You just get that.
Last night, I went to Red Top in Ackworth, and they have a pretzel, and I crushed it. It was amazing. It was incredible. And just thinking about it, I was like, oh.
And it's just nice that it's a hop, skip, and it's out of the way. And same thing there. Their downtown area is very quaint. Before 1885 moved in, I was a regular at Henry's. Henry's was my favorite. And I know a lot of the people that sit on commission boards there as well. And so we tend to work in tandem. Could we ever beat out of Marietta or Woodstock? I don't know. I remember when the Woodstock area was still kind of building, because the theater that I worked at and directed shows moved down there. And that was part of the plan, bring a theater there, bring arts and programming, and then they build the restaurants and everything else came along with it. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that love for theater real quick. So obviously you changed your major without your parents knowing in college. And then of course you're teaching.
Well, eventually they knew.
Well, yeah, eventually they do. But all in the background of you doing all this education and involvement with universities and cities and boards, this and competitions that you love theater.
It's my safe spot.
Is it?
Work. And I thought that would be easy to kind of plug into my teaching career, just go on auditions or send in my demo, that kind of thing. And I ended up meeting this agent who knew of this other woman who had just opened her, this studio / theater in Woodstock. And I just went in just to get an information, and they happened to have an upcoming audition for a show. They were doing The Importance of Being Earnest.
Okay.
Now, I had done The Importance of Being Earnest as a workshop in college. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I've got this.
Yeah.
So I went in and I was like, I'll read for Cecily Cardew, the young ingenue. And I was told, you're a little too old for, what we consider this part to be. And keep in
Wow.
mind, I'm in my mid to almost late 20s at this point.
Wow.
So I was like, sure, that's fine. And what part would you like for me to read? So I ended up reading for Lady Bracknell, which is the older woman, more matronly, but that is the part that I got. And I will say now, having played that part, it was the correct casting.
Okay.
And so I just ended up, getting on great with the artistic director. And she asked me if I had ever had any interest in directing, and kind of like with teaching. I was like, I'm not going to say no. I'm being asked to consider this opportunity. So the very first show that I directed was A Little Princess. That was fun. And then I got to direct the first book I've ever loved, which was Anne of Green Gables. And it just started from there. And the last show that I had the opportunity to direct there at that theater was To Kill a Mockingbird.
Oh, nice.
And I loved it because it was a grant that they received, and it was in partnership with the K through 12 program. And they worked with different lawyers in town, and they would actually take it into the schools, and we'd have a mock trial so they can actually understand the gravity of this language and what it meant. It was the best experience that
I
I've
love
ever
that.
had.
That's awesome. Do you,
Yeah.
after doing some stuff in front of the camera and then some stuff behind the camera, which do you prefer?
I like them both. There's something just, there's some parts that are meant for you and that you need to be in front of the camera telling the story. There are other parts of the process of building something beautiful in which your talents are better served structuring the costume design or making sure dialogue is written correctly, whatever the case may be. So I like them both equally.
Yeah, I've always been obsessed with the world of theater and film, and just everyone has always told me, "Oh, you'd be a great voice actor. You'd be great in,
Really?
animated films and stuff." And because I just don't know if I could. I don't know if I'm confident enough in myself to do like live action performances. But I definitely, and I've always been pretty. I've got a range in my vocal.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been good impressionist. I can, I've always had that love for being able to change my voice to make people laugh. And I've just not taken that leap either.
Every celebrity did
Yeah.
voiceover where you have to deliver lines a certain way because there's ebbs and flows with that. That's why sometimes comedians say it's difficult when they have to be a character. When on stage, they're just them and whatever comes out comes out. But then when they were on a movie set, they have to follow a script.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes it's challenging, but I like both of those sides of the challenge.
Yeah. Funny enough, as a dude who's obsessed with film and movies and fantasy and stuff in my entertainment, my visual entertainment, I struggle so hard to read read stuff that's not real life. So all that I read, I have two ways of doing it. When I listen to audiobooks, they're always either biographies or autobiographies written by the person and hopefully narrated by the person in the audiobook. But then when I read physically, it's always self-help, motivation, atomic habits. I'm reading this one right now called The Power of Moments. It's pretty good as well. And so I just finished reading the biography of Jim Henson, and wicked, crazy, no pun intended.
I believe Tom Hanks played him in the movie adaptation. Either that or Mr. Rogers, one of the two.
I think so. I know he played Mr. Rogers for sure. I'm not 100% sure about the movie, but Jim Henson, wow. I mean, just both in front of the camera, but kind of not really because he's using, the puppets and the Muppets and everything, but then behind the camera. And as I'm listening to the guy narrate about like how, like similarly, he said, there's times that I feel like I should be the one playing the characters, but there's times I feel like I'm just the producer or the director. And I'm like,
well, and that's what I learned in theater in high school. Our theater teacher was adamant about not creating this, hierarchy of you're the lead actor or lead actress, like we're an ensemble.
Right.
And he truly believed that. And so that formulation and that love came from my desire to be part of a team. And I did not want to be a weak link. And I remember one of the classes that we took was called dramatic production. And each time you took the class, because you could take it up to 4 times, you were a different thing. So maybe in semester one, you were an actor. Semester two, you were the director. Semester three, you were in marketing and promotion. So you got to see from page to production opening night what it takes. So sometimes you're working a soundboard, sometimes you were helping with costuming. And I think that was really important to my learning because I wanted to be able to say, I can do this and step in if need be. So I think that's important.
I got to get your opinion with you being a theater girl. I
Mhm.
know you saw Wicked.
Yes.
What'd you think?
I loved it. I mean, the fact that they could take something that I loved so much on stage, and I'd seen it 3 times before the movie came out, and you wonder how they are going to take that movie experience and make it match what you love so much about theater, knowing that they have access to all these tricks and different ways in which they could produce these elements. And I feel like they did such a stellar job. It is not a mirror necessarily of the Broadway show, but it is just as reflective and honest as, when you read it and then you watch it, there's a moment. And then when you take the play and you watch the movie, there's a moment. And I loved it. I can't wait for part two.
Yeah, I was drugged to see it by my better half, and I know the name Wicked
Mhm.
from my life, but I never knew anything about it.
Mhm.
I when we literally, as the movie, like the trailers are playing, and I was like, okay, so how is this related to the Wizard of Oz?
Mhm.
And she was like, okay, so it's before the
Or it's
Wizard of
written.
Oz, and it's, how the Wicked Witch of the West became the Wicked Witch of the West. And I was like, okay. Because I love the idea of like giving villains
Mhm.
of movies that we all know and love, like the Joker movie that released a few years ago, that where it's like we're going to take a character who's just always been the bad guy,
Mhm.
and we've always known them to be the bad guy, and we're going to dive into how they got there,
Mhm.
and maybe you're going to feel some empathy
Mhm.
for them. And yeah, the Joker, fictitiously is one of the most wild maniac serial
Mhm.
killers of
Mhm.
all time. But then you see a movie of a guy who struggles with poverty and drug
Yep.
addiction and, all these things. And you're like, wow, I really feel for this guy.
Mhm.
And then same thing, you take someone who's the Wicked Witch of the West, who's this ultimate movie villain,
Mhm.
but then you humanize her
Mhm.
and you hear her story
Mhm.
and you're like, damn. So I am so excited for
Yes.
part two.
Well, and they're up for, I believe, 10 Oscars
Yeah,
tonight.
that is tonight.
It's
Good Lord.
Mhm.
I can't wait to see how they perform,
Yes.
because yeah, I mean, yeah, I knew nothing about it. And now when I got out, I think that I stood up in the theater and said, that was my favorite movie I saw last year.
Wow.
I think, I mean, I'm so obsessed with, do you know what Letterboxd is?
Mhm.
Okay, you should look at it after
Okay.
this. It's an app that essentially lets you log every movie you've seen,
Okay.
and you can rate it, leave reviews, you
Mhm.
can follow people, read their reviews. For a film person, it's Facebook for
Okay.
films.
Alright.
It's amazing. And you can go in there and you can make lists. And so I rank every year, every time I see a movie, I rank it for all the movies that I saw that year, new releases. And I think Wicked was my favorite
I
one.
love that.
Unless I'm forgetting one, maybe it was Nosferatu though. That one was really
The
good
only
as
one
well.
that I did not see that is up for contention is A Complete Unknown.
Did not see that one either.
So, I mean, we'll see what happens with that one. But I did see Conclave, and you're Catholic, so I think you might find it interesting just because that's the subject matter that you're dealing with.
Sure.
So,
Yeah, I didn't see that one either. Every year, I seem to miss a couple of the Oscar contenders, and I'm
yeah.
like, where was I when
Well, I think too, I don't believe I know the exact year that this happened, but they went from having 5 Best Picture nominees to 10. That's probably why.
Yes.
Because it used to be a smaller scope of what you needed to watch.
Yeah.
But now you.
But now there's just so much good stuff that comes
Mhm.
out. Yeah, Wicked is
Yeah,
up there. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, it was a great time. I can't wait for part two. I never thought I'd be the guy that was just like, I can't wait for Wicked. I almost want to read it now too. Like,
I would say wait
okay.
till you see the second.
Well, that's true. Yeah. I don't want to ruin it for myself either.
And it's one of those too, like, how sometimes you go to the movie and you're just reading the book, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
I like it when they add a little extra spice or just enhance something. You could still pay homage to the original, but when you actually bring it together, make it, applicable to today.
Sure.
And I think Wicked does that.
Yeah,
So
it was awesome. So, my friend, there comes a point in every conversation I have with people where I get to ask them a collection of questions that have nothing to do with anything we just talked about. They're questions, I just got to know you from a professional standpoint, but now I'm curious about you as a human, who you are every day. So, are you ready for these questions? So, diving into our love of film, what is your favorite movie of all time?
Oh my gosh, that's like asking like who is someone's favorite child.
I know.
Okay, so I'm gonna go with the one that because I've been asked this question before, and I'm gonna go with this answer, and I'll tell you why after I answer. I'm gonna go with Pretty Woman. I have
Okay.
a couple.
That's a great answer.
And here's why. I just really feel like that movie really shows how true love can help take two people that have been broken and hurt and like make you believe in love.
I
It's
love
just so
that.
precious. I like that.
That's a great answer. It's a great answer. It's a great movie.
Okay.
So I will not judge you one bit. Your first job ever.
My first job, it was this store called Vogue. It was a little boutique in the mall. And this is going to sound crazy, but instead of having those weird little mannequin thingies, they used live people. I was a live model. So I was dressed and I had to stand in the storefront, and you could only move when people were not passing by.
There were live people in the windows.
And we were, like I said, dressed in whatever outfit that they put us in. That was my first job.
Hey guys, I want to talk to you a little bit about the company that makes your morning drive happen every week. Are you looking to elevate your business and your brand? Hammerhead Creations is here to help. They offer top tier marketing services, including social media management, website design, and Google page optimization, ensuring your business reaches the right audience. Whether it's a side hustle or your full-time grind, their expert team, me, is ready to help you grow. Plus, if you're into podcasting like me, Hammerhead Creations offers full support for both in-house shows and external podcast creation. From concept to production, we will help you bring your ideas to life. Visit www.hammerheadcreations.com and discover how we can take your business or your podcast or both to the next level. Hammerhead Creations, swim with the big sharks.
There was this one little boy that came in with, I'm assuming his mom or his sister or whatever, and who realized that we were live, and he came and pinched the backside of my butt cheek. I about lost it. I was like, okay, I just cannot continue to stand here straight.
Yeah, that's
So that was my first job.
Yeah. Wow. I didn't even know that was a thing. Wow.
It was.
Wow. Okay. I'm going to know what I'm researching later. If you found out tomorrow you were not going to wake up, what would you have for dinner tonight?
What would I have for dinner tonight?
Last meal.
I'm going to go with a meal that I actually just had 2 nights ago.
Hell yeah.
That was my first one. So I love Huey Louie's. So
Okay,
I
great
went
place.
there for a pomegranate margarita, but they had it was chorizo stuffed chicken. Amazing.
Okay.
With spicy queso.
Okay.
And then it came with 2 sides. So I got the cilantro lime rice and the black beans. Could eat that every day again for the rest of my life, probably.
Wow. I love that. That sounds amazing. You get to organize a music festival for yourself. Who are your 3 headliners, alive or dead?
I was going to say that might change things.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to go with, I like my R&B legends. So I would probably go with a little bit of Aretha, a little bit of Whitney, and one who is still with us, Mariah Carey.
That's a great lineup. I'd see that show. That'd be a great time. Everyone would be just screaming the lyrics to every song they sang. You wouldn't even be able to hear the artist because they'd just be the crowd singing it. That's awesome. On a day that you're not involved with something, which I'm sure are few and far between, how do you take care of yourself?
I like to work out. So I don't know if that counts. I mean, I guess.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. How do you recharge and working out?
Real element of being able to take care of my body. And I love HIIT classes. I love boxing. I like flipping the tires and pushing the sled.
Hell yeah.
So, and then after that, you shower, you just kind of chill with maybe a glass of wine, or in my case, it's usually some type of tequila.
Okay.
But
all right.
that would be it.
Love it. Love it. Love it. What is something that very little people know about you that you will share with me and me only, but also anybody that listens to this?
I would say, pretty much I'm an open book. I would say probably until I tell them I'm assumed that I'm a Georgian. I'm not. I'm a Floridian, live and die.
Hell yeah. That's a good answer.
I mean, nothing against Georgia peaches who are homegrown. I'm just simply not one of them. But I guess as long as I've been here, I guess I've morphed into
You kind of mold and shape yourself into wherever you're at. What is something that no amount of money can get you to do?
Oh gosh. Hell, that's a good question, Logan. What amount of money? It's not that I dislike heights, but I'm a water sports kind of girl.
Okay.
So I would say anything like hiking and you drop down and do something weird. No.
Yeah.
I'm just not going
You ever
to.
see those videos of people like biking down a trail on like a mountain and I'm just like, what the hell are you doing?
Right. I mean,
that's death.
Right. And maybe that's the thrill of it for them. If I can escape it, then I've made it in life.
Jesus Christ. No, no, ma'am.
But yeah, I will go up in a plane. I bungee jumped, I do water sports where you go up on the thing and you circle and you come back down, but you're jumping into water. It's safe.
There's a somewhat soft landing. Yeah, it might hurt, but you'll get over it. Exactly. I'm not going to lose a limb. What does that tie in with the next one? What is your biggest fear?
My biggest fear is actually any type of creepy crawly thing. I only share that with like family members and now with you and your listeners. But that has often been used against me by my family members.
Nice.
So that's
as they tend to do.
Correct. So if they could put the faux cockroach in the bathtub, they think that's funny. So
if to tie it in with the last one, if I told you, Travice, I have a $10 million check for you, but all you have to do is take your hand and just let it sit in just a little bin that's about this big, maybe the size of this notebook, and it's just filled with cockroaches. And you got to do that for 30 seconds. $10 million. You want to do it? I don't think I would either. I wouldn't do it either. Georgia Highlands used to have a campus at what was North Metro Tech before it became Chat Tech. Okay. They did not have policies against students doing speeches to bringing in like live creatures. Oh, God. And I had a student who was doing the presentation on snakes. They brought in a rattlesnake in the cage. It had just recently shed its skin. So that was also in the cage rustling around. And then to keep it quiet during the other speeches, they had to feed it like these little baby hamster. Just can't. You know what you do then is you give your presentation with your rattlesnake and then you leave. You say, ma'am, I have to leave. I have a rattlesnake. And unless you want to hear it munching on hamsters. Were they live hamsters? Yeah, because they want to give the snake the ability to hunt. Yes. So I have a policy. You cannot bring that or vodka or weed because I've had both of those brought as vodka, weed, or snakes or creepy crawlers in general. Yeah. But vodka girl, I felt so bad for her. She got bad advice. She asked some of her jock friends how to reduce her nerves before a presentation. And they told her. Okay, so do it in the parking lot, not in the damn classroom. Well, she did it right before she got to class. She drank 2 shots of vodka. So I found out about this after she projectile vomited. Oh, her presentation. No. So the rule of thumb is do not drink and then attempt to speak. God, poor girl. So those happened in Florida. The marijuana boy brought it in as a visual aid. And he walked in class late, which is one of my biggest pet peeves. He had turned in the topic smoking. I thought he was normal, would probably talk about the dangers of smoking, maybe a smoking company. He walked up to the front of the room and at my teacher station, I keep note cards there for students who need them. Walks over, grabs a couple of note cards, and out of his mouth, the first thing as his introduction was, how many would like to get high? Oh, boy. And like 2 or 3 hands went up. And he's like, today, I'm going to teach you how to roll and smoke your own joint. I kid you not. Part of me is like, I have to let him attempt a speech because otherwise they fail. And also, I'm not going to lie, Logan, I was a little intrigued. So he's like, step 1, gather your ingredients. So he lays out these cards that he just grabbed from the teacher station. Then he reaches in his front pocket and he pulls out a little baggie. And it was not oregano. It was the good stuff because you could smell it as soon as you open the bag. He tells us how to siphon it out and lays it on the cards. Then he shows us the rolling process because that was step 2. At that point, I think that's why my brain caught up. I was like, okay, we've gathered ingredients. We've rolled this thing. Surely he is not going to light this thing in class. And he did. But I couldn't let it get that far. So I just dismissed the class, walked him straight to my dean, and he was expelled on the spot. Like, I still don't know what possessed him to do that. I don't know if he was just like. Maybe that was his final, like, okay, if I'm going to go out, I'm going to go out like this. But why would you put your grade and your ability to finish college in jeopardy? That was my thought process. I agree. Yeah. I can't believe it. So when I share those stories, I'm like, as long as you do better than these 2, you'll be fine. Wow. A couple more. What is going to be the title of your memoir?
Confessions of the Well-Dressed Diva.
I love that. Are you a diva?
No, I like the term. I don't know if Laura Beth maybe had mentioned this in her conversation with you, but the three of us, myself, her, and Meredith, were given that moniker.
Yes.
Because for a while it was an all-female club in the communication department, and so that was bestowed upon us by our then dean.
I love that.
Communication divas.
Wow, that's awesome. And then lastly, what does success mean to you? What does it look like to you?
To me is a process. So it's not something that you necessarily attain at one particular time and then you're just done. So for me, success is being able to meet the moment. And I always like to stay prepared for those opportunities when they come my way. So I feel like if I am in that space where I can take on a request or an ask or can you try this, I want to be able to do that.
I love that.
Yeah.
Now, my friend, I will give you the place to, I guess, if you want to advertise something, is there anything you want to plug or promote, or even if there's nothing to plug, if you want to just say something, you can. Yeah, sure. Now's your spot.
Just say for a couple of things, I would just say it's really important that whatever community you find yourself part of, that you stay connected and get involved. So for some people that could be a running club, it could be, maybe a thing that they do at their church. It could be, something they do with a group of friends, whether it's bowling or something like that. Just stay connected. I feel like our world is a scary place right now. So I think as much as you can connect with other people and really enjoy being in the presence of them. And then I cannot not promote Georgia Highlands, since that is the place in which I reside and work. And I really am excited about what's to come. We've done a lot of great work and we've got a lot of great people who want to continue to watch us succeed. So if you need a place to either work, attend, or people that are looking for either one of those as well, check out highlands.edu.
That's awesome. Let me tell you, I have some fun conversations here and there, but I had a lot of fun talking to you today.
Hey, Logan, same here.
You are so much fun, but you're also at the same time, you're so intelligent. And I think you're selfishly a great person for me to keep around. But also, I think that any of your students, any of your colleagues, anybody that you've served in any of these many things with, I think they're all lucky to have served with you.
Thank you.
So thank you for doing this. Thanks for carving time out of your free time to do this with me. I tremendously appreciate it. For sure. Guys, I will make sure that Georgia Highlands is plugged in the bio. So if you are right on that line, you're like, I don't know if college is for me, maybe check it out. Check out some of their resources, check out their staff, check out what they offer. And, hopefully you take the plunge and do what's best for your. Thank you again for joining me today. Guys, if you want to, again, like I said at the top, follow along for more information, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, for clips, behind the scenes, information about me and some of the partners we work with. We appreciate them very much. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and we'll see you next time. Take care.